before Kel'Thuzad.
Kel'Thuzad's necromantic rise into becoming a Lich was done with a pathway paved with good intentions. Well, kind of. Let me explain. Kel'Thuzad was originally a part of the Council of Six, the leaders of the city of Dalaran, which was the heart of the Alliance's connection to the arcane. They studied all types of magic from evocation to divination, but there were certain schools of magic that were off limits. The Orcish invaders of the Eastern Kingdoms meddled with dark magics never seen by the Kirin mages. They used twisted, dark, necromantic magic to raise Alliance soldiers and undeath and fuse their corpses with the souls of Orcish warlocks. This school of magic, Necromancy as they called it, was forbidden. But Kel'Thuzad, member of the Council of Six, was utterly fascinated by it. Kel'Thuzad had a reputation for being a loose cannon, and with a name as evil-sounding as Kel'Thuzad, yeah, necromancy sounded right up his alley. At first, Kel'Thuzad started with raising small creatures. And he was caught multiple times, meddling with necromancy which was forbidden, and was threatened that he would be banished from Dalaran if he kept pursuing this dark art. Which of course, he continued to do in secret. In fact, a dark, ominous voice pushed him further. Kel'Thuzad didn't know it at the time, but the Lich King, entombed atop the frozen throne, infiltrated his mind and helped Kel'Thuzad in the pursuit for his new sadistic passion. Hey, I got an awesome idea. You just do what I say, okay? Kitty. Hit that guy with your staff and I'll show you how to resurrect him as a zombie and we'll be badass. Time and time again, the other members of the Council of Six would confront Kel'Thuzad about his forbidden research, yet they only discovered the surface of his depraved study. He refused to denounce his research. He was doing something important here, actually finding out the nature of their enemies and the magic they wielded. The Kirin were just cowards who refused to deviate from the status quo.
A mistake? Is that not what the Kirin is now? Bumbling mages making mistakes and meddling in what they understand not. So do not speak to me of mistakes. The Kirin is the mistake. I have chosen my path, one of learning and discovery. I will not be hindered by the short-sightedness of those who cling to the illusion of right and wrong. They mistake cowardice for morality and wisdom for mediocrity. True power can only come from sacrifice, from setting aside taboos and fear, and venturing into the unknown. Now go, before I find use for you in one of my experiments.
Kel'Thuzad decided, you know what, screw it. Screw Dalaran and screw Lordaeron. So, he sold all his property, stashed his fortunes, and stocked up on cat food for his beloved Mr. Bigglesworth. It was all oddly freeing in a way. Now the scope of his work would not be hindered by the necessity of secrecy. He could experiment to his heart's content. And that is when the dark voice called out to him once again. Kel'Thuzad, Kel'Thuzad, travel to Northrend if you wish to have a true understanding of the magic you so desperately desire. We are also having a social mixer ping pong tournament on the 15th, so get here fast! So, Kel'Thuzad walked. He walked, and he walked, and he walked. And somehow he crossed the sea to Northrend, where he walked, and walked, and walked, and sometimes ran, and walked, until he found some semblance of civilization.
The Lich King sent me to aid you. I am Nubarak, ancient king of Azul Narub.
Hey, don't worry about him. That's Mr. Iraq. He's one of my homies. He'll show you where to go. Okay, see you soon. Bye.
That sounds logical. Yes, right away.
The bewildered Kel'Thuzad was escorted through the ruined city of Azul Narub. Years ago, the arachnid creatures thought that they could defy the might of the Master, but were defeated and enslaved in undeath. Anub'arak was a testament to the strength of the Lich King, and a lesson that it is inevitable that even those who resist the Lich King's will eventually serve. But more importantly, Kel'Thuzad was shown the latest preparations within the ziggurat named Naxxramas. The elaborate wings of the fortress were filled with supplies, military training grounds, laboratories, and noxious gardens where they were brewing a sickening plague that could raise someone as a zombie in mere seconds. And Kel'Thuzad was able to see it firsthand. During Kel'Thuzad's tour, Anub'arak slays one of the human prisoners they have, and they instantly turn into a zombie and start eating their husband. Sure, I mean, Kel'Thuzad is a necromancer, but oh god, this is all getting real way too fast. Overwhelmed by a profane amount of disgust and sadness and guilt, Kel'Thuzad teleports out of Naxxramas in a panic. Huh, where'd you go? You want me to kill another one? I thought you'd be into this whole zombie thing. After Kel'Thuzad's pointless retreat, a group of wraiths surrounded the fleeing wizard, telling him what was even the point of escaping? Where would he go? Who would believe him? If he fought or fled, his death would be utterly pointless. But if he pulled himself together, found the willpower, he could expand his knowledge to new, incredible heights. I mean, forget everything else, all the horrors that he witnessed. This is what he came here for, right? Kel'Thuzad was the first ever living being to bear witness to the entombed soul of Ner'zhul, the Lich King. He bowed before him, offering him his entire body and soul. The horrors he had witnessed, the shredding chill of Northrend, and the unrelenting aura of his master broke Kel'Thuzad so that he may be rebuilt as the herald to the Lich King's domination. I'll now read an excerpt from Road to Damnation, a short story published by Blizzard back in Classic WoW. Now this is just a clip of the fully narrated story filled with sound effects and music that you can listen to by becoming a channel member or by visiting my Patreon. In the story, Kel'Thuzad utterly surrenders himself to the Lich King, and his new master says,
You will go forth and bear witness to my power. You will be my ambassador to the living, and assemble a group of like-minded people to further my plans.
Through illusion, persuasion, sickness, and force of arms, you will establish my hold upon Azeroth.
To Kel'Thuzad's astonishment, the ice shifted and cracked, and the top of the ziggurat pierced from the frozen ground. A building was being pulled out from the soil. Soon, the entire structure had broken free from the Earth's embrace. Slowly but surely, Naxxramas rose into the air.
And this will be your vessel.
Kel'Thuzad was now the herald of the Lich King's destruction, and had a sick-ass flying death fortress to float back to Lordaeron and sow the seeds of undeath. Now, it's explicitly said in the Warcraft visual guide that Kel'Thuzad returned to Lordaeron in his humongous flying fortress of death. But I'm not sure how every citizen of Lordaeron didn't notice this horrifying, humongous flying fortress. I guess he just hid it conveniently behind a mountain? I'm not really sure. Over the span of 3 years, Kel'Thuzad began to amass a group of loyal followers, disguised as a priest preaching a new religion with quite an ostentatious set of robes. He attracted the downtrodden and rejected citizens of Lordaeron who were the lowest class and used his charisma, wealth, and cute pictures of Mr. Bigglesworth to convince them to join his cause.
What is it?
He preached the promise of a brotherhood of equality and eternal life, an ideal society free of all the burdens which were forced upon them now. Like taxes. Who the hell likes taxes, huh?
All right.
A fateful choice. I need to print more brochures.
Now, of course, the concept of worshipping his master and reveling in death would later be revealed as a core part of his cabal, and Kel'Thuzad went totally mask off with the name and called it the Cult of the Damned.
I always wanted to start my own religion.
So I did.
Now, despite their worship of the undead, such a gift was something that needed to be earned for members of the Cult of the Damned, and by remaining living, it was easier to infiltrate the towns and cities of Lordaeron to further their cause. What's funny is that the tattoos the Cult of the Damned cultists have are also used by the Twilight's Hammer cult, a different group who worships the old gods. There is no lore behind these tattoos at all. They just have them because it looks badass and sick and twisted. Yeah. As the cult grew, Kel'Thuzad had more influential people join through his wealth and charisma. Nobles like the Barrow family, and Kel'Thuzad convinced them to surrender their keep in exchange for eternal life.
Sounds fine.
And he transformed their property into a school of necromancy called Scholomance. Then he experimented on the family with the plague of undeath, but hey, he didn't lie, they are immortal now. And by the end of these 3 years of coercion, there were many hidden cultist outposts, and northern Lordaeron was practically completely under the control of the Cult of the Damned, waiting for when their leader announced the Day of Reckoning. When that day did come, the Necromancer's plans worked almost instantly. Citizens were raised into mindless slaves for Kel'Thuzad's master, and many of the cultists willingly surrendered themselves to the plague so that they may ascend into their immortal, undead forms, where they finally no longer had to pay their taxes.
Are you enjoying this, mortal?
Indeed.
During this orchestration of power, Kel'Thuzad was supervised by a servant of the Lich King, the Dreadlord Mal'Ganis, who helped bring about the spreading of the plague. One of their most effective tactics was using the agricultural hub of Anderhall to distribute plagued grain across Lordaeron to the neighboring towns.
Have you heard the one about the Nathrezim baker? He was a bread lord! No, seriously, that's why we used infected grain to spread the plague of undeath. It was his thing.
Step forth, coward!
Arthas Menethil, Prince of Lordaeron, and Jaina Proudmoore show up to Anderhall to stop Kel'Thuzad's evil schemes, and he does a devilishly villainous monologue about how he spread the plague of undeath with infected grain, with the help of Dreadlord Mal'Ganis, and it was already too late. The prince's kingdom was doomed. So in Warcraft 3, Arthas kinda just kills Kel'Thuzad and leaves. But in the book, Arthas, Rise of the Lich King, it goes into further disgusting detail of the death of Kel'Thuzad. The body began to rot immediately. Decomposition that should have taken days happened in mere seconds. The flesh paling, bloating, bursting open. The men gasped and started back, covering their noses and mouths. Some of them turned and vomited from the stench. Arthas stared, horrified and enraptured at the same time, unable to look away. Fluids gushed from the corpse, the flesh taking on a creamy consistency and turning black. The unnatural decomposition slowed, and Arthas turned away, gasping for fresh air.
Ew.
So despite Kel'Thuzad being dead, obviously this is not the end of his story. And the rest of Kel'Thuzad's story in Warcraft 3 isn't really his story. It's Arthas's, so I'm gonna assume that you know the general gist of Arthas's story. If not, I have a whole video covering that, so we're gonna speed through this pretty quick. So Arthas travels to Northrend, is corrupted by Frostmourne, and returns to Lordaeron to kill his father and destroy his kingdom.
Hey, listen!
The ghost of Kel'Thuzad shows up and gives him the lowdown. The Lich King and the Scourge are the creation of the Legion, but the Lich King wants to break away from the Legion's control, so he can kinda do his own thing. And Arthas and Kel'Thuzad are there to make sure that it happens. In order to do so, Kel'Thuzad needs to be resurrected. So Arthas takes the urn filled with his father's ashes, dumps them all out, and fills them with the remains of Kel'Thuzad, and travels to Quel'Thalas to kill a whole lot of elves, and uses and corrupts the Sunwell to raise Kel'Thuzad into an all-powerful Lich.
The Master has granted me true strength! Yes, this is the power promised me!
Oh no, don't you worry, Mr. Bigglesworth.
Arthas and his emotional support Lich then sow chaos across Azeroth together. You'd think that Kel'Thuzad would have a chip on his skeletal shoulder since Arthas killed him, but he couldn't care less. This was all a part of the Lich King's plan, and Arthas was his chosen champion. And Kel'Thuzad didn't hate Arthas. He was utterly devoted to him and worked to further his and their master's plans.
I love it when a plan comes together.
These plans included things like sieging Dalaran and killing that big-ass loser Antonidas, and summoning Archimonde to destroy the city.
Press forward! Leave none to resist us!
Kel'Thuzad then hangs out in Lordaeron for a while Arthas is running around doing all of his Warcraft 3 missions, and helps when needed, like chasing off the traitor Sylvanas and watching over Lordaeron while Arthas is gone. And by the end of the game, Arthas shatters the Frozen Throne, dons the Helm of Domination, and the Lich King and Arthas are fused together as one, and Kel'Thuzad's master plans are complete.
Now, we are one.
the Lich King and Arthas merged as one, his master has finally broken free from the Legion's control, and they can do whatever they want, which is also spreading death to the living. So in the floating citadel of Naxxramas in Classic WoW, Kel'Thuzad led a Scourge invasion across Azeroth, and lore-wise, it's Alliance players who raid his floating citadel filled with his merry band of undead minions.
I am the Arch-Lich of Naxxramas, Lich Lord of the Plague Lands, Commander of the Dread Necropolis, Master and Founder of the Cult of the Damned, formerly of the Council of Six, Summoner of Archimond the Defiler, the Betrayer of Humanity, Hearthstone Enthusiast, and Major Domo to the Lich King himself, Kel'Thuzad!
Oh, wait. I forgot Creator of the Abomination. Can we take it again from the top?
Despite Kel'Thuzad being killed once again,
Time to devise a new strategy.
he is a Lich, and when he dies, his spirit is transported into an artifact called a phylactery. And while this isn't confirmed, it's rumored that the phylactery of Kel'Thuzad is actually the urn of King Tyrannus, Arthas' father. Both of these items share the same icon, and Kel'Thuzad's remains were carried in the urn of King Tyrannus before his resurrection. In Heroes of the Storm, Kel'Thuzad also mentions this.
Uther, always meant to thank you for the urn. It's made quite the phylactery.
Just shut up, will you? We've got a battle to win.
And by the way, Kel'Thuzad just has some amazing interactions in this game.
Watch your back.
Okay, I will.
So Heroes of the Storm is not canon, but his phylactery being King Tyrannus Menethil's urn might be the case. But players foolishly don't destroy the phylactery, and give it to a man named Father Inigo Montoy, who turned out to be a traitor. And he takes the phylactery to Northrend so that the Arch-Lich of Naxxramas could be revived yet again.
Our enemy is making error after error. How excellent.
As a reward for his loyalty, Inigo Montoy is also transformed into a Lich named Thelzan the Duskbringer. But wait! For $10, you can also buy the battle pet Lil KT, and receive a letter in the mail from Kel'Thuzad himself that reads, I am Kel'Thuzad, Lich Lord of the Plaguelands. You may have seen me in such instances as Naxxramas, Old Hillsbrad Foothills, and Naxxramas. Again, as a member of the KT fan club, now you too can have a little piece of everyone's favorite Arch-Lich. Enjoy, or I will freeze the blood in your veins! But yeah, once again, in Wrath of the Lich King, players enter Naxxramas to fight all the same bosses and Kel'Thuzad, again, and he dies for the third time. But his phylactery is nowhere to be found.
Who dares violate the sanctity of wherever I am?
The next time we see Kel'Thuzad is in the Shadowlands expansion, and he allies with the Jailer, who's the guy that orchestrated the creation of the Helm of Domination and gave it to the Dreadlords, who are actually spies who— Wait. Back up. How is Kel'Thuzad even in the Shadowlands in the first place? We didn't destroy his phylactery in the Wrath of the Lich King. Well, in the book, Grimoire of the Shadowlands, it says that his phylactery was destroyed. Not by us, but somewhere, somehow, by someone. But okay, whatever. In the Shadowlands, Kel'Thuzad is sent to the realm of Maldraxxus, a realm of death that various houses rule over. With help from the Jailer and Sire Denathrius, Kel'Thuzad orchestrates a civil war between all of these houses, and he's the main antagonist in the campaign storylines for the Necrolords and the Venthyr. And when players are about to defeat him, he is picked up by the jailer's lackeys and transported to the mall. And this is where stuff gets problematic. Kel'Thuzad is now one of the bosses in the Sanctum of Domination raid. And in this raid, when players first encounter Kel'Thuzad, he says,
"For too long I've had to disguise my true motives, pretend to serve false masters. When all the while, it was I who helped architect Azeroth's end. The hour has come to make you pay for the indignities I suffered at Naxxramas. Now, at long last, you will kneel before Kel'Thuzad."
Okay, wait, what? Did Kel'Thuzad just say that he was pretending to serve the Lich King and Arthas this whole time, and in reality, he was secretly in league with the Jailer in the pursuit to bring about Azeroth's end and remake reality? Is this entire video I just made pointless now? Apparently not, as later there would be an interview with the former lead narrative designer Steve Denuser, who says, and I quote, "When it comes to Kel'Thuzad and the Jailer, while we have talked about him being in league with the Jailer, the biggest part of that was during the events of Maldraxxus after he had gone to the Shadowlands, after his final defeat on Azeroth. So when Kel'Thuzad says, pretend to serve false masters while all the while it was I who helped architect Azeroth's end, he's referring to his involvement in Maldraxxus and pretending to serve Margrave Sindane in the House of Rituals. But when maybe half of the player base can even interact with the storyline, and Kel'Thuzad mentions things like Azeroth's End and Naxxramas, his citadel when he was living, and also, this is an expansion filled with recontextualization of pre-established lore, well, you can see why people assume this was an entire character assassination of Kel'Thuzad. And during Kel'Thuzad's fight in the Sanctum of Domination, we defeat him once and for all and destroy his phylactery. Which is hilarious that in the real world he has death insurance with a phylactery, but also in the realm of death, he also has death insurance with a phylactery.
My phylactery! Wait! Stop! I can offer you unimaginable power!
And with that, Kel'Thuzad is slain for the fourth and final time. His anima is absorbed by Bolvar, meaning his existence has faded away from the universe, and the most iconic necromancer in Warcraft history is no more. But hey, at least there's a slime cat version of Mr. Bigglesworth in this raid. But still, I love Kel'Thuzad. He's one of my favorite villains in Warcraft history, and don't forget, you can listen to his official, extremely dark origin story, narrated by me and filled with music and sound effects by becoming a member here on YouTube or visiting my Patreon.